All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our presentation. We're going to be demonstrating BrightPattern's latest releases today. We're going to be going through release 3.11 and 3.13. We wanted to go ahead and share these product releases with you guys. A lot of the updates were actually customer recommendations, so we wanted to provide a demonstration on how to use all these new features for all of our current customers and partners. I am Shelby Ferris, the marketing manager at BrightPattern, and I'm going to be moderating this demonstration. We also have Nick Deininger. He's our solution engineer. A lot of you are probably very familiar with him already, and he's going to be demonstrating the new features for you today. If you happen to have any questions, we will try to answer questions at the end of the webinar, so feel free to submit them at any point during the demonstration through the GoToWebinar panel. If there are more technical questions, since these releases are very new, we might decide to follow up with you individually via email or a phone call with one of our product managers. But we'll try to do our best to answer any questions today. There were actually a lot of new features released in these updates, so we're not going to be able to get to all of them today, but we're going to go through some of the main features that we'd love for you to start using today, and you can give us any feedback as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Nick so that he can start demonstrating some of these key updates.
All right. Thanks, Shelby. And again, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Nick Deininger. I'm Solutions Engineer at BrightPattern. And I'm really excited to be showing you these features today. A lot of them, as Shelby mentioned, are based on customer request and customer feedback. So again, we encourage you to check these out and give us feedback and let us know how we can do better. So what we'll do is we'll start out with something we introduced in 3.11, which is the Global Interaction ID. So the Global Interaction ID is a little bit different from the unique identifier. The unique identifier, as you may know, and I'm going to pull up a report actually that shows some of this, and we'll take a look at where you might be able to find some of these things. But the unique identifier is specific for recordings. So previously we had this unique identifier, and we were able to tie that to a recording. But what we added was a Global Interaction ID. So with that Global Interaction ID, we can, it's an 128-bit value, and it's essentially, you can track the history through all stages of the processing, including consultations, transfers, conferences, service changes, media upgrades. So one of the places you can look at that is going to be in the service configuration. So maybe we want to look at inbound voice, for example. We take a look at the results. And then we can add this into our recording file name. So we have, under our placeholders, we've got the unique ID, which is what was here before, but we've also got this Global Interaction ID as well. So we can add that in, and you'll see that it's a little bit different than the unique identifier. So it's basically tracking that entire interaction through the life of it, whether there's new consultations or again conferences, transfers. All of those are going to be tracked using that global ID. It can also be exported to third-party applications through scenarios or desktop integration APIs. So if you want to take that global ID and use that to your advantage on an external system, you're able to do that as well. So any questions about the global ID, feel free to let us know, but we wanted to let you know that we introduced that recently, and it's the future of omnichannel, essentially. It's going to allow us to really track the life of that customer journey and go back and see exactly what happened. It's not just the recording, but it's actually a way for us to follow the life cycle and the customer journey. So what we'll move on to now is the quota system. So we recently released this quota system, and there's many different useful applications for a quota system. So for example, you could use it perhaps in political campaigns. You could use it in customer satisfaction follow-ups. It's geared towards outbound mostly, but things like market research, targeted sales campaigns, those are just a few of the options that you can use with this quota system. So to find out where the quota features are, first thing you would have to do is upload a list. So I've uploaded a couple of lists already. I'll spare you that for today, but essentially you're going to upload a list first, and then our list here is going to be our quota list. So once we've uploaded the list, it's going to bring us to the service, and I'm going to just look at my preview service here. And they show up under lists. So you'll see here I've got a couple of different lists. We'll take a look at our quota specific list here. Now in this list I've uploaded a couple different categories. There's first name, last name, state, gender, score. I've created kind of a fake political list, or one that might be considered political. So a couple of different things here we can do for the quota. So if we wanted to set the number of completes, for example, we could set that. So essentially if we get 10 completes from this list, we've filled our quota and we can stop dialing in the list. Now that's not going to be useful in every circumstance. It's going to be useful for we're uploading a list and we want to make sure we get 100 completes or 200 completes essentially. But we could do it per field value as well. So with this quota list, we've got first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, phone, gender, and score. So maybe I want to actually, if it's for political dialing, maybe I want to get some demographics in the specific state. So I can choose that field. Again, these fields are imported, customized by you guys. And we'll hit set quota, and it'll bring up this list of all of the different states that are in this list and what values we can set for each one. So maybe we want to set 10 California, maybe we want 5 Colorado, Illinois, or we could actually say, all right, I want 20 in each state. Hit apply, and it's going to apply that to all of the different quota values there. So we can do it per field value. If I change this over maybe to gender, maybe we need 10 males and 10 females, we could do that as well. So we've taken it a step further and added in per value pair from 2 fields. So what this means is our system will concatenate this, and maybe we do, all right, state, for example, and then we want to do gender. So this way it helps us break out the quota into what something that might be more applicable for us. So maybe we say 5 females from California, 5 males from California, and then so our system will break this out so that we've got males and females in Colorado. It's based on the data that you've provided in the list. From there, we could change the second field, and maybe we do state and score, for example. Maybe we just have some score for maybe voting or something that we're looking at. We could change it to state and score, and then hit set quota, and it's going to say, all right, we want to look at how many people from California had a score of 0. Maybe we don't care about that so much, and we say 10, and then California score of 1, we want more of those, so we want 20, for example. So our system will help capture a quota. And again, there's many different uses for it, but feel free to upload a list and play around and see if it's relevant for you. But essentially, at the end of the day, we can help capture quotas and fill quotas based on how you're dialing, who you're connecting to. And again, if there's any use cases to share or that you'd like to potentially use this for, feel free to reach out and let me know, and I'm happy to show you how it might be used there. So the quota system is one of our exciting features that we've released recently. We've also added a couple of things to scenarios as far as self-service debugging. So when you're setting up your scenarios, whether they're voice chat, we've added an additional block here called the internal message block. So for example, if I hit support service here as our scenario, we've got a couple of things going on, but what we can do is set up this internal message block for debugging purposes. You'll also have access to the email piece too, so we could pop some dynamic data in there into the email, but we can also set up an internal message to be delivered to our test user, for example, or maybe it's a supervisor or agent. But you can type in the title of the message, and then the username could be your supervisor or agent, whomever you're trying to test with. And then with the message, you can then put in variables, and you can put in different messages depending on where they are in that scenario. So for example, if they're in the menu and they press 1 and then it fails for some reason, we could send an internal message using the instant message features within the platform on the agent side. We could just build these dynamic messages and send those over. So this is very useful for debugging. It really helps us capture exactly what we need, and it's more of a real time. Sometimes emails can get blocked in spam, or different things can happen. This actually allows us to leverage the instant messaging capabilities of the platform that are already there to help push data to these agents that are working through, or I'm sorry, these supervisors who are troubleshooting different scenarios. The last thing I'll mention here about list, I wanted to mention that we've added, as of 3.11, we've added an API to manage the sort order as well. So what I mean by that is we have these lists. So let me just click on this again, and we've got a second here. We've got the sorting orders. We have the ability to set these up, but we have an ability to leverage the API for this as well. So one of the use cases for this is if you're adding new records periodically, we can dial those records first, the newest records first, through an API to be able to do that. So it helps us leverage a little bit of the sorting with the API, and that was by customer request as well. We've also added, as of 3.12, we've added some chat features as well. So we've got this what we call agent ramp-up interval. So the use case behind this is, let's say your agent comes in the middle of the day and there's several different chats in queue. So if we go to our call center configuration and then chat settings, we have this agent ramp-up interval in seconds. So what this is an agent comes in. Let's say there's several chats in queue, and we don't want our agent to get bombarded with several chats all at once. Instead, what we'd rather do is define a ramp-up interval so that agent can sit down and have some time between the chats instead of being bombarded with all 3 chats at one time. They're able to ramp up, so to speak. So let's say we set this to 90 seconds. Well, the first chat will come in when they sit down and go ready, and then we'll wait that ramp-up interval time. And then depending on how many chats they're allowed to take, however many you've configured, maybe you configure 2 or 3, we're able to help spread those out a little bit so that the agent doesn't get bombarded. Instead, they're able to help service those chats. They sit down. Even if there's a bunch of chats in queue, it helps us efficiently dequeue those chats out to agents as part of that ramp-up period as well. So it's basically allowing you to introduce a delay of arrival into these additional chats once this agent becomes available. And speaking of agents, we've added a new privilege. So we have on our agent desktop by default, we have this recent tab. Now, not every, of course, it's useful in some circumstances if it's a small shop typically, but in some cases we don't want to show this to an agent. We don't need them to see it because in some cases they may not talk to this person ever again, or they may not need to know who called, or they don't need to know the caller ID, things like that. Well, we've added a new privilege as per customer request to the role. And in this role, it's called the Use Recent Calls tab. So we can actually disable this on the role level so that if you don't want to show your agents the Recents tab, you're able to just disable that from the role, and the agent no longer sees that. We've also added some desktop alerts from a supervisor perspective. So these are going to be useful because we, as a supervisor, we might want to be tracking certain things throughout the day, particularly as it relates to our agents. So one of the things we can do is add in on our alert configuration. We've got these different alerts. You'll see that we have custom, and then we have a notification as well. So for example, on this agent, my agent Alan behind here, we can add in a custom notification, we can add in the check mark there, and then we can say if it's greater than 1 minute, we can change it to a different color, but it'll also give us this desktop application. So it's going to see on every 15-second interval, it's going to pop up this. And this is going to be a pop-up that can stay there. So if you minimize it, it's going to still be there, so it's front and center for that supervisor. So maybe they're tracking specific agents, or maybe there's certain criteria that we need to be looking at and make sure that our agents are not ready for more than a minute or 2 minutes, however long. Well, this new feature allows us in new notifications to alert the supervisor as to that, and then they can correct it as needed. Maybe they instant message them or walk over their desk, whatever they're doing. So it's going to continue to do that, essentially. So depending on what metric you want to use, you can set up a number of different metrics and notify the supervisor as needed. So for now, we're just going to take that off. We'll just uncheck our notification here and hit apply. All right. So a couple of other things that we wanted to touch on today. So as far as the API goes for chat, we've added a new API to create a chat topic. So if you go to help.brightpattern.com, we can look at the different versions and their different documentations we've got there. But we've got chat topic, and we've got some API documentation on how to set up that chat topic. Now, it's useful for things like if you wanted to know, for example, what page they're on. We also recently added a feature where we can pass the URL that the customer is on at that time to an agent. So we can actually say, all right, they're on this page. We can capture that URL, pass it to an agent. We could set a chat topic based on the URL that they're on. So that could be useful in that case. We can also create a chat topic, and this can be written to an external system of some kind, third-party system, for example. And you're able to set that chat topic, use it, create it, do whatever you'd like to do with it. But we had a couple of customers that requested to know, they wanted to know what the chat topic was, and the chat topic would vary depending on what page they're on. They might be on a page about a product versus a page about a service, and they wanted to include the customer's name, different variables, and then declare what topic they were using. So that's pretty cool. Another important and what I think is a very cool feature that we've added recently is these audio notifications for the agents and customers. So this capability is turned off by default. It's completely optional, but it's important because in the context of a chat, let's say, for example, that person, the client that you're talking to, blocked the notifications from the website for whatever reason. So if they block it, of course, they're not going to see any notifications that come up. Well, we've added in the ability to have an audio notification. So that can be done on the agent side as well as the customer side. I'm going to show you where to configure that. So if we go to audio treatments, we're going to go under audio treatments under call center configuration, and you're going to see this new chat message notification. So you're able to customize what sound it is, and this is going to be for the agent. So any agents that are talking and you want to notify them that a message has come in, it's a little, maybe a ding sound or whatever you want, you could set that up right here in audio treatments. As far as the customer, it's set up a little bit differently, but it's still very easy to set up. What we would do is go to the scenarios in the chat, and we just simply go to the HTML snippet, and this is going to go onto the web page. So we've added these two new variables here, sound notification, whether that's true or false, and then we can specify which file we're going to use for that sound notification. So very cool feature. Again, that's by customer request. They thought it would be useful if we could notify audio to agents or customers to help make sure that they're engaged in the conversation, because as agents are going through and they may be managing multiple chats, it's easier, they find it easier to do an audio notification, for example. So audio notifications, we also added in, as far as chat goes, since we're speaking about chat, we've added a new feature to drag and drop pictures in. So if I want to talk to this person on chat, we'll just initiate a chat here. And we'll go ready. And we'll accept that chat. Accept it. And then if we need to share pictures and documents, it's very easy to just drag and drop there. So we'll look at desktop and we'll just drag our picture of our accident scene in here. So instead of having to go find it, it just makes it a little bit easier. They can just drag and drop. And agents can do the same thing. They're able to drag and drop the pictures in. And it just makes it easier so they don't have to find the right directory and they can drag and drop rather than having to search for the correct method there. So that's kind of the highlights of our features that we've released. We do have the full list of features if you go to help.brightpattern.com and you look at the different versions. We have this what's new in version 3.13. Again, those are some of our highlights, but we have them all listed here. I'm going to show you very briefly one of the features that we've added for our Zendesk integration. But one thing I want you to keep in mind is that we have the ability to integrate to different systems. So if you have your own external system and you want to integrate some of these features that exist in Zendesk, it's entirely possible with the APIs that we have. But that's just something to keep in mind because Zendesk is definitely a good solution, and I think we have a very tight integration with Zendesk. And it's very very cool. And again, you can use these same kind of features with your own system. So we'll look up BrightPattern here. We'll log into our agent under Zendesk. And one of the features that we've released recently is the ability to write multiple chats to one client ticket. So you see here I logged in as my agent. I've got this inbound chat coming in. We can create multiple chats and write multiple chats to one ticket. So this is useful for if you're talking to multiple people that are all involved in the same issue, but you have two separate chats going on with multiple people. You can switch to the context of the ticket in Zendesk, and then we can write this to multiple tickets. So what I'll do here is just to demonstrate this, we'll just go ahead and close it out. And we'll start a new chat session altogether. And so what I'm going to show you here is how this is done. And again, you can do this in some external system if you'd like, or in Zendesk if you're a current Zendesk user, or if you're thinking about using Zendesk, we do have these capabilities here. So we're getting this inbound chat. We'll go ahead and accept that, and then what I'll do is I'll also initiate another chat here. So sandbox, and then we'll do another one. And so we've got our other additional chat coming in. Now, I created 2 tickets, of course, but one of the things you could do, this could be 2 separate tickets, or maybe you just want to work on one ticket. You can simply close one out, and then we can, disposition, end the chat, and write to that ticket, and then we can do the same thing with this other ticket as well. So, again, multiple chats to one ticket. Let's see, there we go, and then we'll just go ahead and renew that, and so it's writing it there. So, yes, so that's kind of the highlights. Again, we've also got in Zendesk, the last thing I'll mention here is that we have an outbound screen pop capability. So if you're doing multiple outbound dials, for example, as long as that ticket exists already and you have a contact number in Zendesk, you can use a click-to-call option, and you're able to do outbound screen pops for the agents. Again, we could do that in external systems too, but you can do you can do outbound screen pops for different calls, for different tickets. So as long as we have that information, we're able to click the dial and then write to that same exact ticket as well. All right. Well, thanks for your time. I'm going to pass it back over to Shelby to go ahead and wrap up.
All right. Great. Thanks, Nick. Looks like some pretty useful new features. We didn't actually get any questions from any of our current customers, so hopefully that means that all the new features are just really intuitive, and Nick did a great job demonstrating them for you today. I do have some contact information up right now, so if you do have any questions on this release, you can either shoot them to marketing@brightpattern.com, and those will go directly to me, and I can then funnel them to either Nick or product manager to help you out, or of course you can always just contact support. If you want to just use self-help, again, you can go to help.brightpattern.com, and that'll take you right to the new release notes. It comes up with the most recent release, but you can scroll down to see previous versions as well. And like Nick showed, you can also search through all of our documentation at the top. So with that, thank you all for joining. We're going to plan on doing this for all future releases. So our release 3-14 coming out soon, and then we have a large release, our 5.0 release, coming out soon as well. So I was the one that was calling everyone, leaving voicemails on Monday, so I'll be doing that with the new releases that are coming out in the future as well, so that you guys can keep updated on the platform. Nick, thank you for the great demo.
Thanks, Shelby. Thanks, everyone, for your time.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye.